Maya Chen sat in the back corner of advanced xenobiology, her worn tablet displaying notes that looked just like everyone else's. The lecture hall buzzed with the usual chatter of university students discussing weekend plans and upcoming exams. Professor Valdris, a tall Kethani with silver skin that shimmered under the fluorescent lights, droned on about cellular adaptation in low-gravity environments. To her classmates, Maya was unremarkable. She wore the same faded jacket every day, kept her dark hair in a simple ponytail, and never spoke unless directly asked a question. Her grades were decent but not outstanding. She lived in the cheapest dormitory on campus and worked part-time at the campus library to pay for basic supplies. Nobody knew her story, and she preferred it that way. The Galactic University of Centauri Prime attracted students from dozens of species across the known galaxy. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago. Most alien students saw humans as curious but unremarkable newcomers who showed promise in certain fields but lacked the advanced technology and centuries of spacefaring experience of older civilizations. Maya's roommate Zara was a bubbly Altarian whose blue skin sparkled when she laughed. She often tried to include Maya in social activities, but Maya always politely declined. The other students in their xenobiology program came from wealthy families or had received prestigious scholarships. Maya seemed to struggle financially, often eating simple meals from the discount section of the campus food court. During a particularly boring lecture about protein synthesis in methane-based organisms, Maya noticed someone watching her. 3 rows ahead, a vegan student named Thane kept glancing back at her. His species was known for their exceptional memory and analytical abilities. The vegans had been part of the galactic community for over 2 centuries and considered themselves intellectually superior to most other species, especially humans. After class, Maya packed her things quickly and headed for the exit. She had learned to avoid unnecessary social interaction. Too many questions could lead to problems, and problems were something she couldn't afford. The campus library job started in 20 minutes, and she needed the credits it provided for her meal plan. "Excuse me," a voice called behind her. Maya turned to see Thane approaching. His pale green skin and large dark eyes gave him an otherworldly appearance that still startled her sometimes, even after 2 years on Centauri Prime. He moved with the precise, calculated steps characteristic of his species. "Maya Chen, correct?" he said, his voice carrying the formal tone most vegans used when speaking to humans. "Yes. Can I help you with something? I was wondering if you might be available for a study group this weekend. Several of us are reviewing for the midterm examination in advanced xenobiology." Maya shifted her backpack on her shoulder. "I appreciate the offer, but I work weekends. Maybe next time." "At the library, yes. I have observed your schedule." The way he said it made Maya's stomach tighten slightly. "Perhaps we could arrange something during your break periods. I prefer studying alone. Thanks anyway." She turned to leave, but Thane stepped closer. "You know, there is something quite interesting about your academic records." Maya froze. Every instinct screamed danger, but she forced herself to remain calm. "My records? I was conducting research for a paper on human educational development and requested access to the academic backgrounds of human students. Most files contained the expected information: previous schools, family data, recommendations from teachers. But your file was remarkably sparse." Maya's heart began beating faster, but she kept her expression neutral. "Some people have boring backgrounds." "Indeed. But what I found fascinating was not what was missing, but what was present. Your file shows you completed basic education through a correspondence program, while living at something called Location 7731 Delta. When I searched for information about this location, I found nothing in civilian databases. The library job suddenly seemed very far away." Maya needed to end this conversation immediately. "Look, I really don't know what you're getting at. Some places just aren't well documented." "Oh, but they are documented," Thane said, his dark eyes fixed on her face. "I simply had to know where to look. 731 Delta is not a civilian location at all. It is a military designation." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Years of careful construction were beginning to crumble because of one curious alien with too much time and too many resources. "You are mistaken," she said quietly. "Am I?" "Because when I cross-referenced 7731 Delta with military databases, which admittedly required some creative research methods, I discovered something remarkable. It appears that 7731 Delta was the designation for a Terran Defense Force base on the frontier world of Kepler 442b. Maya said nothing. Around them, other students walked past, laughing and talking about normal student concerns. None of them realized they were witnessing the moment when someone's carefully constructed new life began to unravel. But here is what truly intrigues me, Thane continued, lowering his voice. Kepler 442b was not just any frontier world. It was the site of the most significant military action involving humans in the past decade. The Battle of Kepler's Gate, where a small Terran defense force managed to hold off an invasion force of over 50 ships belonging to the hegemony. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. The memories she had worked so hard to bury began rising to the surface unbidden. The sound of plasma cannons, the screaming of injured soldiers, the smell of burning metal and worse things. I am sure it is merely a coincidence, Thane said, but his tone suggested he believed nothing of the sort. After all, you are just another student struggling to pay for university. What could someone like you possibly have to do with military operations? Maya met his gaze directly for the first time since the conversation began. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes that made Thane take an involuntary step backward. It was the look of someone who had seen things that would give most people nightmares for the rest of their lives. You should be more careful about the databases you hack into, she said quietly. Some information is classified for good reasons. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Thane standing in the corridor with more questions than answers, and the distinct feeling that he had just made a very serious mistake. Maya's hand shook as she scanned books at the library circulation desk. 3 hours had passed since her conversation with Thane, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. She had been so careful for 2 years, maintaining perfect normalcy, never drawing attention to herself. Now everything was at risk because one curious alien had too much time and access to restricted databases. The head librarian, Mrs. Patterson, noticed her distraction. You all right, dear? You seem upset about something. Just tired, Maya replied, forcing a smile. Mrs. Patterson was one of the few humans on staff and had always been kind to her. The older woman reminded Maya of her grandmother back on Earth. Why don't you take your break early? You've been working hard lately. Maya nodded gratefully and headed to the small employee break room. She needed time to think, to plan. If Thane had found information about 7731 Delta, he was either very good at hacking or he had help. Either way, it meant her secret was no longer safe. She pulled out her personal communicator, an old model that looked like any other student device but had several modifications that weren't visible to casual inspection. Her fingers hesitated over the emergency contact number she had memorized but never used. Calling it would mean admitting her cover was blown, which would trigger protocols she wasn't ready for. Instead, she opened a news search and typed Kepler 442b recent activity. Her stomach dropped as she read the first result. 3 days ago, a Galactic Senate Investigation Committee had announced they were reopening the inquiry into the Battle of Kepler's Gate. New evidence had emerged suggesting the official reports were incomplete. Maya closed her eyes and leaned back in the plastic chair. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Someone was digging into the battle records, which meant someone was looking for information that was supposed to stay buried. Thane's research might not have been random curiosity after all. A soft chime indicated someone had entered the break room. Maya looked up to see Dr. Evelyn Ross, the human professor who taught comparative military history. The middle-aged woman had graying hair and sharp eyes that missed very little. Maya, isn't it? You work here in the evenings. Yes, Professor Ross, and I was hoping to find you. I understand you had an interesting conversation with one of our vegan students today. Maya's blood went cold. I'm sorry? Thane Veltar. He came to see me this afternoon. Brilliant young man, very thorough in his research methods, perhaps too thorough for his own good. Dr. Ross sat down across from Maya, her expression serious. He showed me some of his findings about 7731 Delta. Fascinating stuff, really. Made me curious about what other information might be hiding in university databases. Maya remained silent, but her mind raced. How many people knew? How far had this spread? So I did a little research of my own, Dr. Ross continued. Amazing what you can find when you know what to look for. For instance, did you know that your enrollment here was fast-tracked through a special program for students with unusual backgrounds? The paperwork was signed by someone quite high up in the Terran Defense Administration, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. But here's what's interesting. I served in the TDA myself, about 15 years ago, communications specialist. I learned to recognize certain types of paperwork, certain code phrases used in personnel files. Dr. Ross leaned forward slightly. Your file doesn't just show fast-track enrollment, Maya. It shows witness protection protocols. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Witness protection was the most classified level of identity concealment available. Only a handful of people in the entire human government had access to those files. Professor, I think you're mistaken about Staff Sergeant Maya Chen. Terran Defense Force Special Operations, Dr. Ross said quietly. The only human survivor of Operation Darkfall on Kepler 442b. The soldier who held position Alpha 7 for 6 hours against impossible odds while civilian transports evacuated the colony. Maya's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. How do you know that name? Because I processed some of the initial reports from Kepler's Gate, before they were classified beyond my clearance level. Dr. Ross's voice softened. You were 18 years old, barely out of basic training when they assigned you to what was supposed to be a routine peacekeeping mission. It wasn't routine. The words came out flat, emotionless. Maya had spent years learning to speak about Kepler's Gate without showing any reaction. No, it wasn't. The hegemony showed up with enough firepower to level the entire colony. Your unit was supposed to evacuate civilians and withdraw. Instead, you volunteered to stay behind and man the anti-aircraft batteries while everyone else got out. Maya stared at the table. She could still remember the weight of the plasma rifle in her hands, the heat from the burning dropships overhead, the sound of Colonel Martinez's voice over the comm system, telling her to hold position just a little longer. 47 enemy aircraft destroyed, Dr. Ross continued. 630 civilian lives saved. And when the evacuation was complete, you walked 20 kilometers through hostile territory to reach the extraction point, wounded and alone. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you're in danger. Someone is asking questions about Kepler's Gate, and they're not going to stop with university databases. If they're willing to use students to dig for information, they're serious. Maya looked up at Dr. Ross. What do you mean, use students? Thane is brilliant, but he's not the type to hack military databases on his own. Someone gave him access, someone pointed him in your direction. The question is who and why. Before Maya could respond, her communicator buzzed with an urgent message alert. She glanced at the screen and felt her heart stop. The message was from campus security, asking her to report to the administration building immediately for a routine verification of her student records. Dr. Ross saw her expression. What is it? They want to verify my records. At 8 in the evening? That's not routine, Maya, that's a trap. Maya stood up quickly, her mind shifting into the tactical planning mode she hadn't used in over 2 years. If someone was moving against her now, it meant they already had enough information to be confident. The student identity was blown, which meant she had very little time before things got much worse. I have to go, she said. Wait. Dr. Ross grabbed her arm. You can't just walk into whatever they're planning. If I'm right about this, there are people involved who have resources beyond anything you faced on Kepler 442b. Then what do you suggest? Come with me. I have some old contacts who might be able to help. People who remember what really happened at Kepler's Gate and why it mattered. Maya hesitated. For 2 years she had been completely alone, trusting no one with her real identity. But Dr. Ross had already figured out more than anyone should have been able to discover. If she was working with whoever was hunting Maya, this conversation would have gone very differently. All right, Maya said finally. But if this is a setup, you should know that my training didn't end with operating anti-aircraft guns. Dr. Ross smiled grimly. Good. Because I have a feeling we're going to need every skill you learned in special operations before this is over. Dr. Ross led Maya through the back corridors of the university's older buildings, moving with purpose through areas most students never saw. Emergency lighting cast long shadows on the walls as they descended into the maintenance levels beneath the main campus. Where are we going? Maya asked, her senses alert for any sign of danger. Somewhere we can talk without electronic surveillance. The university's older sections still use hardwired systems that are harder to monitor remotely. They stopped at a heavy metal door marked authorized personnel only. Dr. Ross produced a keycard and led. Maya into what appeared to be a storage room filled with old academic equipment. But as her eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, Maya noticed details that didn't fit. Communication equipment that was far too advanced for university use, and a computer terminal that looked military grade. "Professor, what is this place?" "Safe house. Established about 5 years ago when we started noticing unusual interest in certain military records." Dr. Ross activated the computer terminal with a complex password sequence. "I told you I used to work for the TDA. What I didn't mention was that I never really stopped." Maya's hand moved instinctively toward where she would have carried a sidearm if she were still in uniform. "You're still active duty?" "Retired, but with clearance for specific operations. It's like monitoring for threats to classified personnel living under new identities." The terminal came to life, displaying information that made Maya's stomach clench. Her photograph appeared on screen alongside her real service record, but it was marked with alert tags indicating active surveillance. "Someone has been tracking you for months," Dr. Ross explained. "Not your student identity. That was almost perfect. But they've been mapping connections, looking for people who might have been present during certain classified operations." "The Senate investigation into Kepler's Gate," Maya said. "That's just the visible part. The real investigation is being conducted by a private organization with connections to several galactic corporations. They want to know what really happened on Kepler 442b, specifically what humans discovered there that made the hegemony attack." Maya felt pieces clicking into place. There was something else, something beyond the colony. Mining surveys had found deposits of a rare mineral called neutronium-7. It's used in the most advanced faster-than-light engines. The galaxy's major powers have been searching for new sources for decades. Dr. Ross pulled up another file showing mineral composition charts. The official report said the deposits were destroyed during the battle. But someone thinks a human soldier might have taken readings or samples before. The site was compromised. And they think that soldier was me. You were the only survivor who spent significant time at the mining site. According to mission logs, you held defensive positions there for hours before falling back to the evacuation zone. Maya closed her eyes, remembering. Colonel Martinez had ordered her to destroy the mining equipment before retreating, to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. She had placed charges throughout the facility, but she had also been curious about what was worth such a massive assault. "I took readings," she admitted quietly. "Standard protocol was to gather intelligence about enemy objectives. I thought it might be useful for the after-action report. Where are those readings now?" "Classified with my service record. Sealed when I entered witness protection." Dr. Ross turned to face her directly. "Maya, those readings might be the key to understanding why powerful people are willing to expose classified programs to find you. Neutronium-7 deposits could shift the balance of power in the galaxy." Before Maya could respond, an alarm chimed softly from the computer terminal. Dr. Ross quickly pulled up a campus security feed showing the administration building. Black vehicles had arrived and figures in formal suits were entering the building. "Corporate security," Dr. Ross said grimly. "Probably from one of the major mining consortiums. They're not going to wait much longer." Maya studied the security feed, her tactical training automatically cataloging potential threats and escape routes. "How long before they realize I'm not coming to their meeting?" "Maybe an hour before they start searching the campus systematically. But they won't just be looking for you anymore." "What do you mean?" "Thane hasn't been seen since this afternoon. His roommate reported him missing 2 hours ago." Maya felt cold certainty settle in her stomach. They took him to find out what he learned and who he told. "When they realize he talked to me, this safe house will be compromised." Dr. Ross began shutting down the computer terminal and gathering essential equipment. "We need to leave now. I have another contact, someone who can get us off-world if necessary. I'm not running again." Maya's voice carried an edge that made Dr. Ross look up sharply. "I've been hiding for 2 years while other people paid the price for what happened on Kepler 442b. Now they've taken an innocent student because he was curious about my background. Maya, these people have resources that make the hegemony look like amateurs. You can't fight a galactic corporation. Maybe not, but I can fight the people they send after me." Maya moved toward the equipment stored along the walls, quickly identifying items that could be useful. "And I can make sure the information they want never falls into the wrong hands." She found what she was looking for: a military-grade communicator. that would reach her emergency contact regardless of electronic interference. Dr. Ross, do you have access to the files from my service record? Some of them. The technical data from Kepler 442b is beyond my clearance. Then we need to find someone who does have that clearance. Because if these people want the neutronium-7 readings badly enough to kidnap students and blow classified operations, then those readings contain something more important than mineral surveys. Maya activated the communicator and began entering the emergency code she had memorized years ago. I need to contact my handler. If I'm going to surface officially, I want it to be on my terms. You're sure about this? Once you make that call, there's no going back to being just another student. Maya thought about Thane, probably being interrogated by corporate agents who wouldn't hesitate to use extreme methods. She thought about Dr. Ross, who had risked her own safety to warn someone she barely knew. She thought about the 600 civilians who had made it off Kepler 442b because someone had been willing to hold the line. I was never just another student, she said, pressing the transmit button. I was a soldier who got tired of fighting. But some fights don't end just because you walk away from them. The communicator crackled to life with a voice she hadn't heard in over 2 years.
Priority channel active.
State your identity and emergency status. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, service number 7731 Delta Alpha, requesting immediate extraction and briefing authorization. Cover is blown and civilians are at risk. There was a pause, then. Confirmed, Sergeant Chen. Extraction team dispatched to your location. Estimated arrival 12 minutes. Prepare for immediate deployment. Maya looked at Dr. Ross, who was staring at her with a mixture of respect and concern. Deployment? When witness protection fails, they don't just extract you and find you a new identity, Maya explained, checking the charge on her communicator. They reactivate you and send you after whatever threat exposed you in the first place. And you're okay with that? Maya smiled for the first time since this nightmare began, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Professor, someone just made the mistake of threatening innocent people to get to information I've been protecting. They're about to learn why the hegemony needed 50 ships to take down one human position. The extraction team arrived exactly on schedule. Maya heard the soft whine of advanced stealth engines as an unmarked transport settled onto the university's landing pad. Through the underground facility's monitors, she watched 3 figures in tactical gear emerge from the craft. That's Captain Sarah Webb, Maya said, recognizing the team leader despite the helmet. She was my squad commander before Kepler 442b. Dr. Ross gathered the last of her equipment. What happens to me now? You come with us. You're too deep in this to be safe on your own, and we need your intelligence contacts. Maya checked her old communicator one final time before switching it off. Besides, someone needs to verify what I tell them about the neutronium-7 readings. They made their way through the maintenance tunnels to a service exit near the landing pad. Maya moved with the fluid precision of her military training, automatically checking corners and scanning for threats. Dr. Ross struggled to keep up but didn't complain. Maya? Captain Webb's voice came through a tactical communicator as they approached the transport. Good to see you're still breathing, Sergeant. Good to be breathing, Captain. What's our situation? Complicated. Corporate security has locked down the campus, but they're being careful to maintain legal cover. Officially, they're investigating academic fraud. Unofficially, they're tearing the place apart looking for you. They boarded the transport quickly. The interior was all business. Tactical displays, communication equipment, and jump seats designed for rapid deployment. Maya felt a familiar combination of dread and relief as she strapped herself in. This was the world she understood, even if she had hoped never to return to it. Briefing starts now, Captain Webb said as the transport lifted off. 3 hours ago, corporate agents from Hegemony Mining Consortium raided a TDA safe house on Europa Station. They were looking for classified files related to Operation Darkfall. Maya's stomach dropped. Did they find anything? Negative. But they knew exactly where to look, which means they have intelligence sources inside our organization. Your blown cover might not be random bad luck. Dr. Ross leaned forward. Captain, I believe student Thane Veltar was specifically directed to investigate Maya's background. His research was too focused to be coincidental. We're working on finding Mr. Veltar, but first we need to understand what these people are really after. Captain Webb activated a holographic display showing the Kepler 442b system. Maya, I need you to walk us through exactly what you found at the mining site. Maya studied the familiar star chart, memories flooding back despite her efforts to suppress them. The mineral deposits were extensive, but they weren't natural. Someone had been mining there for a long time before humans arrived. Explain. The excavation patterns were wrong for automated equipment, too precise, too efficient, and they were structures built into the mine shafts that didn't match any known construction techniques. Captain Webb exchanged glances with her team members. You didn't include this in your after-action report. I tried to. Colonel Martinez classified it immediately and ordered me not to discuss it with anyone. He said xenoarchaeology wasn't our mission. But you took readings anyway. Maya nodded. Standard intelligence protocols. I thought someone should have a record of what we found, even if it was classified. Dr. Ross spoke up. Maya, what kind of structures are we talking about? Transport systems. Automated refineries that were still partially functional. And something else. A central chamber with equipment I couldn't identify. It was clearly advanced technology, but not from any species in the galactic community. The transport shuddered slightly as they entered hyperspace. Through the viewports, Maya could see the familiar blue-white tunnel of faster-than-light travel. Where are we going? She asked. Classified facility on Proxima Station. We have xenoarchaeology experts standing by to analyze your data. Captain Webb paused. Maya, how much of this did Colonel Martinez know when he classified your report? I'm not sure. He seemed more concerned about the tactical situation than the archaeological implications. The hegemony attack was already underway when I reached the extraction point. That's what doesn't make sense, Dr. Ross said. If the hegemony knew about ancient alien technology, why risk a major military operation? They could have negotiated mining rights through normal diplomatic channels. Captain Webb pulled up another display showing recent intelligence reports, because they weren't the only ones who knew. 3 other major powers have been quietly investigating sites with similar mineral signatures. Someone leaked information about pre-sapient ruins across multiple systems. Maya felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking together. You think Kepler 442b was a test case. We think someone is using corporate proxies to investigate ancient sites while maintaining plausible deniability. If they can prove that advanced alien technology exists and can be reverse engineered, it would be worth trillions of credits. And the governments would lose control of first contact protocols, Dr. Ross added. Private corporations could claim salvage rights to alien ruins without oversight. The transport's communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. Captain Webb accepted the transmission, and Thane's face appeared on the main display. He looked tired and frightened but unharmed. Maya, if you are receiving this, please respond. I am being held by people who claim to represent legitimate research interests, but their methods are not scholarly. Thane, are you hurt? Maya leaned toward the communicator. No, but they have questions about information I discovered. They want to know if you shared details about your military service with anyone. Captain Webb muted the transmission. It's a trap. They're using him to draw you out, I know. But he's innocent in this and they took him because of my background. Maya, you can't... I'm not going to abandon him. Maya turned to face Captain Webb directly. These people want the Neutronium-7 readings? Fine, let's give them what they want. Absolutely not. That information is classified at the highest levels. Captain, what if the readings don't just show mineral deposits? What if they show something that would make corporate exploitation impossible? Maya reactivated her connection to Thane. I'm here. Tell them I'll trade the information they want for your safe release. Maya, no, Thane said urgently. They have shown me what they believe the readings contain. This is not about mining rights. They think you found proof of active alien technology. The transmission cut to static, but the message was clear. Maya looked around the transport at faces that had gone pale with understanding. Active alien technology, Dr. Ross said quietly. Not ruins. Working equipment. Captain Webb was already inputting new coordinates into the navigation system. Change of plans. We're not going to Proxima Station. We're going back to Kepler 442b, Captain. If there's active alien technology on that world, we need to secure it before anyone else gets there. And Maya? Captain Webb's expression was grim. You're going to have to remember everything you saw in that central chamber, because humanity's place in the galactic community might depend on it. The journey to Kepler 442b took 18 hours through hyperspace. Maya spent most of that time in the transport's briefing room, working with the xenoarchaeology specialists to reconstruct every detail she could remember about the alien structures. Dr. Ross proved invaluable. Her academic training, helping to organize Maya's fragmented memories into coherent technical descriptions. The central chamber was roughly circular, about 50 meters across, Maya explained, sketching on a digital pad. The walls were covered with panels that seemed to respond to touch, but not human touch specifically. More like they were sensing biological presence. Dr. Kimura, the team's xenoarchaeology expert, studied the sketches intently. Did the panels display any visual information? Symbols, but not like any written language I've seen. They moved, changed pattern when I got closer. Maya paused, concentrating. There was something else, a humming sound that seemed to come from inside the walls themselves. Machinery? Maybe, but it felt different. More organic somehow. Captain Webb joined them from the communications station. We've received updated intelligence from command. Hegemony Mining Consortium ships were detected entering the Kepler 442b system 6 hours ago. They're not waiting for negotiations. How many ships? Maya asked. Enough to establish a significant ground presence. But here's the interesting part. They're not alone. Long-range sensors show at least 3 other corporate fleets converging on the system. Dr. Ross looked up from her research terminal. This is moving too fast to be coincidental. Someone coordinated this response. Which brings us to our real problem, Captain Webb said. We have reason to believe the leak came from inside TDA command structure. Someone with access to Maya's original readings has been feeding information to multiple corporate interests. Maya felt cold realization settle in her stomach. Colonel Martinez. We don't know that for certain, but he's the only person who had complete access to your classified reports. He's also been unreachable for the past 12 hours. The transport shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the main viewport, Kepler 442b appeared as a brown and green sphere scarred by the battle that had taken place there 2 years ago. But something was different about the planet's appearance. Captain, the pilot called from the cockpit. You need to see this. They crowded around the forward displays as the pilot enhanced the image of the mining site. Where Maya remembered bare rock and scattered equipment, there was now a complex of gleaming structures that definitely hadn't been there during the battle. The alien technology, Dr. Kimura breathed. It's been activated. Those structures weren't visible when I was here, Maya said. They must have been underground. Or they weren't fully operational, Dr. Ross suggested. Maya, what exactly did you touch in that central chamber? Maya tried to remember. The battle had been chaotic, explosions echoing through the mining tunnels as she set demolition charges. But in the central chamber, there had been a moment of strange calm. There was a panel at the center of the room, different from the others. When I touched it, the symbols changed color and the humming got louder. Then I heard the explosions getting closer and had to leave. You may have triggered some kind of startup sequence, Dr. Kimura said. Ancient automated systems designed to activate under specific conditions. Captain Webb was studying tactical displays that showed the positions of various corporate fleets. Whatever's happening down there, everyone wants a piece of it. We're outnumbered and outgunned. But we have something they don't, Maya pointed out. I know the layout of the underground complex. If we can get to the central chamber first, maybe we can understand what we're dealing with before anyone else claims it. Assuming the corporate fleets don't just blast us out of space. Dr. Ross had been quietly working at her terminal. Actually, they might not. I've been monitoring their communications and they're all being very careful to maintain legal standing. No one wants to be the first to commit an act of open aggression that could trigger galactic intervention. So we use that, Maya said. We go in fast, establish a research presence, and claim scientific priority under galactic law. Captain Webb considered this. It's risky. If shooting starts, we'll be caught in the middle of it. Captain, with respect, I've been caught in the middle of worse situations. Maya moved to the equipment lockers and began selecting gear. And this time I know the terrain. The descent to Kepler 442b's surface was tense but uneventful. The corporate fleets maintained their positions in orbit, apparently waiting to see what the others would do. Maya guided their transport to a landing site she remembered from her previous mission, a rocky outcrop that provided cover from orbital observation. Interesting, Dr. Kimura said as they approached the landing zone. The alien structures are generating some kind of energy field. Our sensors are getting interference patterns. Maya studied the readouts. The energy signatures were unlike anything in standard databases, but they felt familiar somehow. It's the same frequency as the humming I heard in the central chamber. They landed without incident and quickly established a defensive perimeter. The mining site had been transformed beyond recognition. Where Maya remembered scattered human equipment and blast craters, there was now an elegant complex of crystalline structures that seemed to grow directly from the rock itself. These buildings are definitely not human construction, Captain Webb observed, scanning the area with tactical sensors. But they're not matching any known alien architecture either. Because they're older than any known alien civilization, Dr. Ross said, taking readings with archaeological equipment. These structures could be millions of years old. Maya led them toward the entrance to the underground complex, following paths that were both familiar and completely changed. The tunnels she remembered as rough-hewn mining shafts were now lined with the same crystalline material as the surface structures. The alien technology is rewriting the entire site, Dr. Kimura explained as they descended. It's not just activating dormant systems, it's rebuilding everything according to some kind of original blueprint. They reached the central chamber and Maya stopped in amazement. The room had expanded to 3 times its original size, with walls that curved upward into a dome filled with softly glowing symbols. At the center, where she remembered a simple control panel, there was now a complex console that pulsed with gentle light. Maya, Dr. Ross said quietly, I think you need to see this. She was standing near one of the wall panels, staring at a display that showed star charts. But these weren't modern galactic maps. They showed stellar positions from millions of years ago, with markers indicating inhabited systems. This is a record of ancient galactic civilization, Dr. Kimura said, his voice filled with wonder. Look at the scale. Thousands of inhabited worlds connected by technology we can barely imagine. But where did they go? Captain Webb asked. Maya approached the central console and the symbols brightened in response to her presence. Suddenly images flashed through her mind, not her own memories, but information being transmitted directly to her consciousness. She saw a galaxy teeming with life, dozens of species working together in peaceful cooperation. She saw the gradual decline as resources became scarce and cooperation turned to competition. She saw the final war that devastated entire star systems and left only ruins behind. They destroyed themselves, Maya said, the knowledge somehow certain in her mind. But before the end, they built these archives, hidden databases designed to preserve their knowledge for whoever came after. The Neutronium-7 deposits, Dr. Ross realized. They're not natural minerals. They're technological components, power sources for the archive systems. Captain Webb's tactical scanner chimed with an alert. We have company. Multiple corporate teams are approaching the site. Through the chamber's new displays, they could see armed figures in corporate security gear entering the tunnels. But Maya noticed something important about the alien technology's response. It's not just reacting to me, she said. It's responding to human presence in general. Captain, I think these archives were specifically designed to activate when humans reached sufficient technological development. Why humans, specifically? Maya touched the central console again and more information flowed into her mind. Because we're the species most similar to the ones who built this. Not physically, but in our approach to cooperation and exploration. They left these archives as a test. What kind of test? To see if we would use their knowledge responsibly or repeat their mistakes. Maya turned to face the team. The corporate fleets aren't just here for mining rights. If they gain control of this technology, they'll have access to weapons and power sources that could dominate the entire galaxy. Then we stop them, Captain Webb said simply. How? We're 4 people against multiple corporate armies. Maya smiled, but her expression was determined rather than pleasant. By doing what humans do best. We improvise. She placed both hands on the central console, and the chamber erupted with light as ancient systems responded to her touch. Around them, the walls began displaying tactical information about the corporate forces above. Their positions, their weaknesses, their lack of understanding about what they were really facing. The archive systems include defensive protocols, Maya explained as data streamed through her consciousness. They were designed to protect the knowledge from those who would misuse it, but they need human authorization to activate. And you're providing that authorization? We all are. This isn't about one person controlling ancient technology. It's about humanity proving we can be trusted with it. Captain Webb understood immediately. What do you need us to do? Maya looked around at her companions, a soldier, a professor, and a scientist, all willing to risk everything to protect knowledge that could benefit all sapient life. They represented the best of what humanity could be. "Help me show these corporate raiders why you don't mess with humanity's guardians," she said, and activated the archive's defenses. The archive's defensive systems activated with a low harmonic pulse that resonated through the entire complex. Maya felt the ancient technology responding to her commands, but also guiding her towards solutions she wouldn't have considered on her own. "The approaching corporate teams are carrying standard mining and security equipment," she reported, information flowing directly from the archive's sensors into her awareness. "But they don't understand what they're walking into." Captain Webb monitored her tactical display. "Maya, I'm showing energy buildups throughout the complex. What exactly are these defenses? Non-lethal but highly effective. The original builders designed them to discourage aggression rather than destroy intruders." Maya's hands moved across the control interface with growing confidence. "Watch." On the tactical display, they could see the first corporate team entering the main tunnel system. Suddenly, the crystalline walls began shifting, creating new passages while closing off others. Within minutes, the intruders were hopelessly lost in a maze that reconfigured itself faster than they could map it. "Displacement fields," Dr. Kimura observed with academic fascination. "The technology is manipulating space-time on a localized level." "And that's just the beginning," Maya said. The archive was showing her capabilities that defied current scientific understanding. "Dr. Ross, can you establish contact with the corporate fleet commanders?" "I can try. What do you want to tell them?" "The truth." Dr. Ross activated her communication equipment and broadcast on standard diplomatic frequencies. "Attention all vessels in the Kepler 442b system. This is Dr. Evelyn Ross representing the Terran Defense Administration Archaeological Team. We have established contact with an active ancient alien archive system." The response was immediate. "Dr. Ross, this is Commander Vex of Hegemony Mining Consortium. You are interfering with legitimate salvage operations. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." "Commander, you don't understand the situation. This isn't a salvage operation. It's first contact with technology that predates all known galactic civilizations. All we understand is that humans have illegally occupied a mineral extraction site. You have 10 minutes to evacuate before we begin orbital bombardment." Maya looked up from the console. "They're not going to listen to reason." "Then we make them listen," Captain Webb said grimly. "No." Maya's voice carried absolute certainty. "We show them something better." She interfaced with the archive again, this time accessing its educational protocols. Throughout the complex, holographic displays activated, projecting the history of the ancient civilization in visual form that anyone could understand. "I'm broadcasting this to all ships in the system," Dr. Ross reported. "They're seeing the same historical record we witnessed." On the corporate vessels, screens lit up with images of the galaxy's forgotten past. They saw the rise and fall of a civilization that had achieved everything the current galactic powers were striving for. Unlimited energy, faster-than-light travel that spanned the galaxy instantly, and technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level. They also saw how it all ended. Greed and competition had turned cooperation into warfare. Resources that could have sustained the entire galaxy became weapons that destroyed entire star systems. In the end, the ancient civilization had barely managed to preserve their knowledge before their final collapse. "The archive is designed to teach, not to be exploited," Maya explained over the communication channel. "It will share its knowledge freely with any species that proves they can use it responsibly. But it will defend itself against those who approach with purely selfish motives." Commander Vex's voice carried less certainty now. "These images could be fabricated. Human propaganda designed to claim exclusive rights to alien technology." "Then test it yourself," Maya challenged. "Send a small team with peaceful intentions to the archive chamber. Let them interface with the system directly. But Commander, the archive can read intentions as clearly as it reads biological signatures." There was a long pause. When Vex spoke again, his tone had changed completely. "Dr. Ross, we are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the planet's surface. Our science officers are reporting readings that exceed anything in our databases." Maya smiled as she felt the archive systems responding to the cosmic conversation taking place above. The ancient technology wasn't just defensive, it was educational. Every ship in the system was now receiving detailed sensor data, showing the true scope of what lay beneath Kepler 442b's surface. "Captain Webb," Dr. Kimura called excitedly. "Look at this." The central display now showed a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy, with thousands of markers indicating the locations of similar archive sites. Most were dark, waiting for activation, but a few showed the same gentle glow as the Kepler 442b facility. There are archive sites throughout known space, Maya realized, hidden, waiting for species to develop sufficient technology and wisdom to access them. And Kepler 442b was just the first test, Dr. Ross added. Humanity's first contact with the archive network. Captain Webb was monitoring communications from the orbital fleets. "Maya, you need to hear this." The channel crackled with voices from multiple ships as corporate commanders struggled to understand what their sensors were telling them. But one voice cut through the confusion with calm authority. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are ordered to stand down and prepare for diplomatic boarding parties." Maya looked up sharply. "Admiral Chen? Your father, I believe," Captain Webb said with a slight smile. "Command decided this situation required someone with both military experience and family connections to our on-site specialist." The communication channel activated again, and Admiral Chen's familiar voice filled the chamber. "Maya, I know you can hear this. Your mother sends her love, and Command wants you to know that your actions today have probably prevented a galactic war." Maya felt tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed in 2 years. "Dad? Hello, sweetheart. Ready to come home? What about the archive? We can't just leave it here for the corporations to fight over. We're not going to. The Galactic Senate has agreed to establish Kepler 442b as a protected archaeological site under Joint Species Administration." "But Maya?" Admiral Chen's voice carried paternal pride. "They want you to be the primary human liaison to the archive network." Maya looked around the chamber at her companions. Captain Webb gave her an encouraging nod. Dr. Ross was beaming with academic excitement. Dr. Kimura was already taking detailed notes for what would probably become the most important xenoarchaeological paper in galactic history. "What about my student identity?" "You were never just another student, Maya. You were a soldier who became a guardian of knowledge that could benefit all sapient life. That's a job worth coming out of hiding for." Maya placed her hand on the archive's central console one final time, feeling the ancient technology acknowledge her acceptance of the role it had been waiting to assign. Around them, the chamber filled with a warm, welcoming light that seemed to say humanity had passed its first test. "Dr. Ross," Maya said, "I think we're going to need a much bigger research team. And Captain Webb," she added with a grin that would have been familiar to anyone who had served with her on Kepler 442b, "we're going to need security forces who understand that some things are worth protecting, even if it means fighting the entire galaxy to do it." As they prepared to leave the archive chamber, Maya realized she was no longer running from her past. Instead, she was walking toward a future where humanity would help guide the galaxy toward the wisdom the ancients had died trying to preserve. She had started as just another student, but she was ending as something far more important, a bridge between humanity's potential and the greatest knowledge the galaxy had ever known.